All right. Getting caption. Okay, I see it. So once we're here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna log in. Right? We talked about loading the Kali virtual machine after we extract and save from the downloads. Okay, so here's my VM, right? Now, once you have your virtual machine desktop loaded, you're gonna go to your terminal, which is the black square box at the top. You see my little cursor, so it's like the fourth icon at the top. And I'm gonna zoom in. So we finished part A. Part A shows us how to get our virtual machine loaded, just like last week. We're gonna make a user account. So in Linux, there is an option for you to go through the UI to be able to click and point. But the easiest way to do this is through the terminal. Okay. Why we are pushing a lot of the terminal usage is because when you're administering Linux server, you are only going to see the terminal, right? A lot of the Windows also. So we're going to do a sudo super user do add user one word, and we're going to call the student one. And here is your username, right? You can name it however you want. So if it's your computer, you can say, you know, so-and-so user or John Doe, whatever you want. So the add user command requires that you have a higher privilege because we're logged on as Kali, right? If we're logged on as root, you can just say add user. But since we're logged on as Kali, K-A-L-I user account, you have to use a super user do command. Okay, so once that happens, you're gonna press enter and then you're gonna type in the password, which is Kali. And just type the cursor doesn't move or blink in Linux. Sorry, I typed my password wrong. Let me retype K-A-L-I. Okay. So here is that it tells you, you gotta read the prompt, right? It created the user account like you told it to do so. And in Linux, you're gonna see that it has a value that normally is given to an object. So it's saying that your UID is gonna be in this range. And when we created the student one account, it's gonna give it this value, 1001, okay? And it's going to make a group for it, right? Automatically. And it's also, that's the ID for the group. And the directory, the like equivalent to documents, all the files is going to be stored on that user account. Is going to be under its home. Okay. So now it wants you to make a password, and you can just fill in the password. So let's just use K-A-L-I so we remember. Just type, don't think about the cursor. Right? It's not going to move. And then what you can do is you can fill out the information here. Okay, so if I can just pressing enter, 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 and to continue. Okay.
You have to fill out the information.
No, just press enter. And eventually it'll be done. In the real world, yes, you do. You have to put in their full information, like, you know, so and so works at this department, this is room number, and so on.
How did you get that at home phone? How did you get that to type it?
Oh, I just press enter a couple of times, and sometimes it puts in the symbol.
Do I have to type in?
No, you don't. You don't. Just press enter until you get back here. So I'll add these steps. Okay. Input a password. Type Kali. And then press enter to proceed in general information. Is that okay? All right. And I'll update the file with the changes in the steps in case you want to refer to it later. So what we're going to do next, and you can copy and paste the command or you can type it. We are going to verify if that user exists, right? In Linux, what we can do is we can go to the etc directory and then we can look at the task wd. And remember, we talked about grep last week, right? That's a way that we can search and filter for that username. So if you made like 100 user and you wanted to see, oh, did I make that user account? This is where you can find it. Okay, so we're gonna do a cat, which allows us to view the file. Okay, let me expand this. So we're gonna do a cat etc passwd, and we're gonna do a pipe that's allowing us to combine two command on one line is a pipe, and we're gonna do a grep and the username. So it tells us that if you made it, it shows here, you can see, right? The UID and the group UID. And it tells me that my directory is home for that user, and it shows in Bing Bash. So that means that I made the user successfully. Okay?
How do I get out this other?
Just press enter until you get back to the pop-up. Keep going. There you go. When you guys get here for the general information, just keep pressing enter until you get back to the pop-up. Okay? Now, in reality, you gotta fill out like their information, their department, all of that. Okay, any question? All right. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to create a group, okay? Or we're gonna modify the group. So we are going to do a sudo user mod. This is where you modify an existing user, and you're gonna do a -a G capital sudo student 1. Okay. So that means that we are going to create a group called student 1. Linux is really simple. You can create a user and it's going to make a group for it automatically. Instead, in Windows, you got to do separate objects separately. But we can, so when you create the user earlier, you saw user add and it made the group ID and it includes it. But in the case that we don't like that group, we are going to customize our group with a different name. You're going to do a user mod command. Okay? So it happens, it already, if you don't see an error, that means it's good. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna make sure my laptop is running. Okay. Okay, so once that happens, what you're gonna do is we're gonna use the groups command to call on the groups. Oops. Student 1. So if that works, you're going to see that it shows, right? I have the group student 1 and it shows sudo. Super user do. Here. Yes. For which one?
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, by default, you have it under user, so it's saying that you. Yeah,
We got the same thing. So when you were telling us to press enter to which group, so the different line we have, it says if the information is correct, yes or no. You press enter and then it says info adding new user to the info supplemental.
oh, okay,
That's it.
okay.
I think that's why we're.
Yeah, so by default, it puts it into the user's full group, right? And then it's gonna add, so I have a completely customized group. But in your case, what it did was it defaulted into the users group. And then you modify that group for the student one. So it's like basically two membership. So you have, that's okay. You have a users group and then you have a student one group. That's fine, right? So you have two membership or the nested ship. The nested membership. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're going to look at to see if we can edit the file. Okay, so I'm gonna run this command. So this is a configuration file, right? Every object and every setting in Linux have some form of config file or some kind of setting files. So what we can do is we can go in, and this is how we modify settings in Linux. So it's telling you that we are going to go to the following line at the end to give student the privilege. So we got to make sure that we add this line in here. Okay. So use your arrow key and you're going to move down. Okay, you see there's root, all. What we're gonna do is this is user privilege specification. So you're gonna use the down arrow key to get to that line. Okay. And we're going to add this line into the file. Understand?
So I see that.
Okay, so you're gonna go to that line and we're gonna go to the next line here after root. And you're gonna type in or copy paste, but type in student one. And then exactly, it's case sensitive in Linux, all equal, open parenthesis, all, colon, all, close parenthesis, space, all. Just like what you see here with the root. What does this do? It's equivalent to like full control in Windows environment for that particular account. Okay. So in Linux, you don't right click something and change. I think you do have that capability, but often that we are going to modify the settings in its file like this. So you are going to open up the file and then you're going to edit based on adding anything like this. Okay. And if you want further, you can move down, right? So it's saying all the super user do has all the all. You can also add it to the end of the file, but I want it in the right area so that way it's easier for you to find. Okay, when you're done, it tells you to press Control X. So on your keyboard, press Control X together. And this is gonna pop up. And then you're gonna press Y to save. And then it's going to ask you, hey, do you want to save it to the same file name? You're going to press enter. Okay. So again, right? I'm going to repeat the step. When I execute this command, it's going to open up my configuration file. I'm going to use the arrow key to go down to maybe like halfway. And under the privilege specification, I just need to add in that line for my user account. Student one, all is all. That's allowing me to have all access. And then when I'm done editing, I'm gonna press Control X together. Oops, sorry. And then it says, do you wanna save? And then I'm gonna go ahead and press Y. And it says the same name, and then I'm gonna press enter. Right? So that's how we update the configuration file. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna test it. Sudo student. Okay. Sorry, I have an incomplete command. Type too quick. So you see, I elevated my privilege. So that means that what? From an attacker standpoint, someone can get into your system, right? They can get into that file. If they're able to modify that file, they can give themselves full control. And now I elevate myself from student one to root, right? So sudo means super user do and for this user. So you see escalation of privilege there. So that means that you gotta type the complete command, sudo dash student one. Okay, any question? Pretty easy. Okay, we're gonna see who are we, right? So sudo, who am I? And it tells me I'm root, right? But wait, I was on student one earlier, or even Callie, right? But I elevated my privilege, right? See, I'm saying sudo student one to root. That's elevating this user account to root, and then I can check who am I. That's root. We're good? Yeah.
My output looks a little bit different. Still says I'm student one at Cali, but when I do the sudo who am I, it says I'm root, but it doesn't have the what is that called? When the little
Yeah, perhaps because if you nest the user account into a group membership, did you check earlier? You have the users group. Like what? Are you guys getting the same thing?
No, I got
No.
it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So check your configuration file, making sure that you have all.
Yeah.
Save, and then, yeah, it should, once it's root, it's gonna be red, and then it's gonna, if you check, so when you log into an account, you wanted to know, oh, what level am I accessing at, right? You just do who am I, right? Or sudo who am I, and then it would sudo it actually for the credential, and it would tell you, oh, what kind of user you are. Okay.
One says unable to locate package.
Okay, what step are we doing? Okay, so the sudo student, right? Two things, your command is incomplete and incorrect. Click in your virtual machine so I can change your information. Okay. So type it, sudo space dash student one, no space in between there, okay?
No space?
Like
Sudo dash.
dash student one, no space. Okay, are we successful? Did we check?
The type of
Happens to me too. Okay. All right. So if everything is configured correctly, it tells you should be at root. Take a screenshot so I know that you can escalate that privilege. So if we know how that's done, right? What do we do? So how can I prevent this from happening? I just need to make sure that file that's modifiable is not accessible for every user, right? So if you log on as root or administrator, you have control of everything. But in the case if I'm Cali user or if I'm, student one user, I don't want student one to become a root user. So I just gotta make sure that that person cannot modify the file. Okay? Yeah. Right. Yeah, all. So you have full control. So if you change that from not all, right? We give it the least privilege, then they don't have that option. So remember, like when you did, well, I can't go back to the other one and I have to exit out of the root user account, and go back to Cali and it would run because when you did the earlier command up here, right? When we changed this one, right? So if we go back and modify this file for the write privilege, then it's gonna be appropriate. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna do SSH. Do we know what SSH is used for? Secure shell, which is used for?
Creating a remote connection between two devices.
That's correct. So if I want to configure a router, I can use SSH. If I want to modify configuration of a Linux machine, I can use SSH, like a Raspberry Pi. It's a way that I can connect to systems in a secure manner, right? In Windows environment, we use RDP, which is remote desktop protocol for system to system, right? Or, you heard about SMB and its flaws, but we're gonna do SSH. And when you're using Nano, this is a text editor, just like what we did, but we're gonna edit a text file, a configuration file for SSH. Okay? This is how you configure SSH. All right. We're gonna go here. And we can copy this, or you can type it. Just make sure you have the underscore and everything. Okay. All right, so that file's open up and it looks like this. So it tells you to use your arrow key and you're gonna go down to permit root login and you're gonna convert the yes to a no. You're gonna delete the yes and type no. So I'm gonna use my arrow key and go all the way down. And whenever you see the blue with the hashtag, that's a comment. So sometimes you have to uncomment a line for it to work. So you just remove the hashtag. So we're going to go down and we're going to. Which one? Command not found. Yeah, so you have to make sure there's space and symbols and underscore exactly like it is. It should be found. So check your typing. You can copy and paste it.
Space and space.
Dash etc slash etc slash ssh slash sshd underscore config.
Yeah, I went through this the whole semester, just not knowing the copy and paste worked really good with this. Where you don't make most mistakes,
Yeah, so if you want to copy and paste to eliminate the mistake, that's okay. Did you guys see it? Did I miss it? I only see prohibit password.
It's under logic grace time.
I must be blind today. Let me see.
Right there.
Right here? Yeah, that's the only one I see is the root login. So, right? Is that right? Yeah, okay. So we're gonna remove this and you're going to type in no, and then you have to uncomment it. Take out the hashtag. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna disable the root account login period, right?
Right here?
That's what's happening.
Just take this file.
Yeah, check the hashtag in the front out, so use your arrow key, go here, delete that, and then you can't use your mouse on this one. And then take out these two words and type no there. Right? Is that okay?
And then press enter.
No, so we're going to do Control X and all of that, just like last time. So let me copy paste this. Otherwise, someone is doing this at home and they're like, what? I can't save my file. Okay. Control B, Control I, Control B. Okay, so we're gonna save and exit by pressing Control X, Y, and enter. After this, you're like, oh, I got this. I know how to use configuration file in Linux. It's easy. Yeah, so you can write a script and do this, right, using Nano, right? Python script. By the way, summer I'm teaching Python for cybersecurity. If you're interested, it's online 6 weeks. Highly accelerated, but really fun. All right. Any question? Okay, so now let's test, right? We're gonna do a system control restart SSH. This allows us to restart the service. Sometimes that doesn't work. Some services it has its own command. So let's try sudo system CTL restart SSH. And then so I'm still on this root. So that's a fail. Is that right? Let me check again. Let me get out of that terminal. And then let me reopen the terminal. No. Yeah, you can use Vim. Yeah. So I don't think it's that one. So you can say yes here, right? And then you can say, and then once I log in, I'm gonna do SSH. And when you run SSH, right, if it runs, it's gonna give you all the options like that. So I need to go back and fix this part. I think you need to modify more than this part. Okay. So yes and yes on both parts. So part D, they're still able to access it even when we modify this part right here. Okay. So I think there needs to be additional lockdown outside of just the configuration file for the root user. You can't just change permit root login as no, it's not effective.
And get back in.
Say it again.
How do I get back into? Do what you did for Teams. Exactly.
Oh, that's fine. And then you just run SSH for the next step. And if it loads, then you would answer the question. So are we okay there? Yes, question?
To use SSH, is it required to do a key exchange?
Yes, because it's a PKI infrastructure. So you have to have a private key in the public. So you would need, and the same thing with Windows Remote Desktop Protocol, RDP. You have to download a key and share that key, or you would need to generate a key.
To just
And-
answer this here, are you able?
Yeah, so if you see yourself as root still, so yes, you see yourself as root. Is it red?
Yes.
Okay. Type in SSH, does that load? It would say SSH dash blah, blah, blah. So my conclusion is, even if you modify this to a no, right, the root account require more control to change its account. And that makes sense because that's the highest system account plus you. So it you can't just modify the configuration, but you elevate it, you just need to modify the configuration file. Okay.
So we're just trying to stop root from being able to log
To
in.
use SSH, log into SSH. Okay. So if you modifying only SSH configuration file, that's not enough. Right?
You could actually do that though. You could stop root. using-
Yeah. Because this is an SSH configuration file. But you just, so this is an application control where it is an app on a service. So you can add the users and the account accordingly. Okay. And I uncommented, so it says permit root login, but it says earlier to not allow password. We probably have to do more in order to stop it from using. Okay, any questions? All right, let's do permission now. So just like last time, right, we're gonna do an mkdir, secure data, underscore data. Let's zoom in. All right. So we are making a folder or directory under the home Kali. And you know that it exists. You can always do ls, right? ls allows you to list all the content within that directory. Okay. Now we're going to, we have to look into the home and Kali actually. We're gonna do a CHOWN. This is CH own. This is allowing you to change ownership of that object. You have it typed backwards. Student one, secure underscore data. Oh. I had one. There you go. I put student instead of student one. So it's changing the ownership of my folder or my directory, right? I created the directory as a root user. Now I give the ownership of that directory to the student one under student one. Yes, it's good. Yeah. Yeah, Linux only when it has problem, it will tell you, it will complain, right? So when you see complain, you know that there's problem. So yeah, so if it's good right here, right? Earlier I had a typo. I didn't put in the right group right here and it didn't like it. So it complains right there. It says, no, I can't do that, right? All right. So now, what you're gonna do is in Linux permission, you're going to use a value like 700. So we're gonna change, we're gonna do a chmod, right? We touched a little bit on this before. Chmod allow you to change, right? The actual permission for that directory instead of the ownership, now the actual permission. So chmod, and we're gonna give it 700 and secure data. That allows you to get the full permission to that particular group and user account. So, and then we're gonna do LSLD secure data. So this is going to give you the details or the properties of that directory. So ls is to list. And if you're using a switch option, following that, you want more detail to see the permission, right? If you need to audit this particular directory, saying who has access to this folder or the directory, you're gonna list it with the details for the directory. And then it's gonna tell you who has the permission and, right, when that was modified.
Is there a place where you can find all these commands with their, what they mean?
Yeah, last week I gave you the cheat sheet and there are, so there are a lot of like really good, I'll put up, I'll edit this document, I'll put up a little table on what you can see with like the permissions and things when you're doing CHMOD. I wrote it for another lab and I have that table, so I'll include that so you have a better picture. Okay, but yeah, so there are Linux command cheat sheet online that you can find, you can just Google that. In last week lab, I also have a link for that, so you need to practice.
What does the D stand for again?
For,
In the permissions, it's read, write, execute, and what's the D?
is to read the content for the directory. Yeah, so just like list folder in Windows. So you did give it a full control. Read, write, and execute, right? And then also like list the directory. So in order to see what it is, you have to see what's listed. Understand? Like you can't see what's in the folder without it's listed.
Okay, so even like hidden files, everything?
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever, so if I have 5 items in the directory, it's gonna allow you to see that. And then you're gonna get the user account, and then, so for number 31, let's go through and answer this question. Why is disabling root SSH login recommended? What do you think? So secure shell, we know that it's allowing you to connect directly one device to another. Like if I need to configure a server, I can connect my laptop to it. Right? I can configure a router that way, a switch that way. But root level though.
The root has power to do everything?
Right, so that's correct, because the root has the highest privilege in the system, and that allows the root user to change the system configuration at the highest level, right? So we want to disable the root user SSH login credential. And then the risk behind giving sudo privileges to the user. So earlier you did a sudo student 1. What happens to that student 1? You elevate that student 1 to a root user, right? So what's the risk behind that?
They could
Do-
read, execute.
Yeah, so privilege escalation, that's correct. Becoming a powerful user from a regular user. And that they can change the system configuration, they can disrupt your server, there's a lot of risk behind it. So when we audit, we need to think about what's the capability of the root user in applications and connection. How is the user escalating their privilege? Is there a way? And then third, how can you further harden user access in Kali Linux? What do you think? Controlling permissions to objects, right? We just went over that last. To allow people or system users certain level of access based on least privilege principle. Okay.
Say controlling permissions to objects.
Yeah, like folders and files, those are objects. Controlling subjects are users, systems, computers. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.